What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. I think we'll try to keep this one quick because the few notes I had for this concept are out of date. They're a few days old now. However, we still are in the whatever core era. The only problem is I'm so dead. It's hard to find even whatever topics to talk about. I made that intro so long because I wanted to say, it's fucking cold out. But that'd be putting a spin on a meme that I think is 8 years old now. It's the middle of May, and it has decided to be cold again. And we're talking about the weather because we are just this deep into whatever. On to the main point of the video. I don't know if other dudes are beginning to feel this way, but I think when you feel something, usually other people are feeling it, or they're about to be feeling it. Maybe in a few years you're just that ahead of the curve. It feels like men are moving in a weird direction, in a different direction. This isn't men going their own way, because MGTOW presents that whole concept as a conscious choice men make to go away, to do their own thing, and they always talk about how happy they are about it, while fixating on women. Whereas this men drifting somewhere new thing, it feels different. It feels more like the hallucinations a person might experience as they're shot in the stomach and lying there and dying. This wasn't a choice. It's not some fantasy good thing. It's not a real bad thing either, exactly. And women are still present, but it's more like they are the measurement or the landmark you use to measure how far you've drifted, because men will always be concerned with women, but how deeply we've disconnected, your interest in them or your concern in them serves more to show you or to help you realize how far away you've drifted. Because it feels like women are supposed to be a large component of a man's life, his internal world. Like there's an interest that pulls you to women or makes you concerned with them, but then there's also a segment they take up. But as we've disconnected, as men and women have disconnected, that concern or that draw is still there, but that segment isn't. On some level, you're aware, unless a miracle happens, you're probably going to die alone, or you're going to settle with someone who has deep contempt for you and who you have deep contempt for in kind. And that's not worth it, so that's why this segment has disappeared. But what I'm finding is, or what I've found, is once that puzzle piece is gone, there isn't another thing you can slot in there. There's not even another thing you can jury rig and put in there. You can change your focus, but that void will always be there. But what's interesting is once you accept that, because earlier I mentioned segment, your segment can be craving women, lusting after women, desiring women, classical incel stuff. And although it is still classical incel stuff, if you're feeling that way, you're still on the ship. And again, even if you remove that segment or that segment numbs out, that's a horrifying thing, by the way. It feels like every year I learn more forbidden knowledge about how horrific woman biology is. I wrote in my notes, this was I think a month ago, but I liked the line, "Your vagina directed by John Carpenter." Did you know did you know in women's, I think, late 40s, early 50s, some women experience clitoral shrinkage to the point it goes away. Like it atrophies into their bodies and then it's just gone. Well, not completely gone, but it's not the way it's supposed to be. Can you imagine your dick? You turn 45 and your dick just decides it's done. The game's over, it's gone. I like women, in spite of a lot of things. I feel bad for them. Anyway, once your woman segment atrophies away, maybe you can never be completely off the ship. Maybe you will, because of your concern, because of your desire. You'll still always be tethered, but that's when you start drifting. And it feels so weird. You come to terms with the probable fact, you are almost certainly going to die alone. You'll live alone, you'll go through life alone, you'll die alone. You know it as much as you realistically can. Psychedelic air or psychedelic oxygen gets pumped into your brain. It feels like you're floating. One of my favorite things Terry A. Davis said was, you have emptiness in your life, or you make emptiness in your life so God can fill it. That's sort of how it feels. This is very hard to explain. It feels like the abstractions or the mental wanderings or the bullshit life experiences you get yourself into, they don't feel so abstract anymore, or they don't feel so bullshit anymore. They are still abstract, or they might still be bullshit, but you're looking at them seriously. It feels like you are astral projecting into a different dimension of this life. When I was younger, all I really cared about was, or everything in my life was organized around, even if I didn't realize I was doing this, was organized around the idea of meeting a good woman and loving each other, enjoying one another, building a family. This hope is a ghost. Hope is a spirit. The spirit of hope existed as her. Everything else mattered, but it all existed around this hope spirit. Whereas now, I'm dealing with a lot professionally right now. A lot. Terrifying, overwhelming, losing on a lot of fronts. But I'm also developing as a person rapidly. And I'm thinking a lot about who I am, what I'm doing, where I'm going, what I could become, why I should become it, or what it means to be a person who reaches one of these levels. Who are you? Why are you? What is your role in society? These things start to matter to you a lot more. And not in the theoretical way or the mentally playing around way you'd think about things when you were younger. Now, it's as if these ideas are beginning to get etheric flesh on their bones. Again, I'm having a hard time explaining this. This future, better version of myself feels real. And what it's doing and where it's supposed to be and why it's even supposed to exist in the first place feels substantial. And I used the word psychedelic earlier because it's strange when these abstract ghosts of yourself and of society start to feel real, start to feel like they have weight, like they matter existentially, where before they never did. They were just ideas, or they were just ways to go in life. It feels like you are shaping yourself and being shaped more into some puzzle piece in a much larger puzzle you are beginning to realize is real. And it's not just is real, because a lot of things are real. a loaf of bread is real, but what I mean is it's real and it feels important to you. You're always chasing that high of feeling like you matter, feeling like you exist for a reason, you have purpose. I don't know why that's so important, but that's the best high, and you start to feel it. You start to get your rush going. The rush of feeling like you matter. And you feel this way in spite of the fact you're probably going to miss out on an aspect of life that has been important to humanity, to the species, since the beginning, and will probably be important to the species until the very end. And you wonder if this is the way monks might have felt, or I don't know, but you wouldn't expect to be able to feel this way, especially because of how hard people hammer it into your head. There are only one of a couple ways to live. What we're talking about is a lived realization there is more to life. And people always say that, especially when they're trying to convince you to act in a way they would prefer, to live in a way they would prefer. But this phenomenon is interesting to me because we arrived here by what feels like accident, and it feels purposeful. And I recommend you always use yourself as your thermometer, as your compass. You alone are a much better instrument than people would like you to believe you are. And me, the me instrument, is telling me I don't hate this. And as a misery person, that's a weird feeling. I'm almost afraid not to hate this because it means this will be taken from me. This will be taken from you. But it's a curious thing to experience while you're here. It is a mild sense of place and belonging you absolutely should not be feeling. You're in this whirlwind of abstractions that are becoming kind of tangible, and you're in uncharted waters, yet you feel like you are on the right track. Maybe. You're at least not wallowing in acute misery every second of every day. And the fun, part of the fun, comes from the way while you're drifting, you drift into and around weird shit, other abstractions or other experiences. And they sometimes feel real too, and you have a hard time determining which ones feel real, which ones don't, or how you're supposed to feel about them. In a world that doesn't feel real, it's strange and also suspicious to watch things take shape and affect you tangibly, where they never did before, or where people say they shouldn't. And that's the other part of why this feels weird. Why is it things start to feel somewhat real when you are drifting? You're in a drifting state. You're in a very non-solid state. I don't know what to make of any of this or to do about it, by the way. All I can do here is observe and think. And this is where women come back into the picture. You sometimes see a very attractive woman, or a woman who looks sweet and cute in a way that feels like you're getting stabbed. Because women are still important to you. But even if you feel stabbed, the way you think about them changes from flavors and degrees of possessiveness to a marker saying, wow, that is a life I am never going to lead. That feeling is an indicator of how far away from the ship you've drifted. That is not going to happen. That is not a life you'll be leading. And I don't know why things turned out this way or why things are like this. You could name off a bunch of reasons, you can point fingers, and I do. It's fun to do, you need to do it. But in my gut, still, it feels like the reason this is all happening, and to a lot of dudes, is beyond us. And I've been thinking about life too, the life you're supposed to lead. You always come back to the question, and a lot of people will use this as a diffusing question or as a shutdown question, why does it matter? And that's a curious question because if we go by or if we think along the lines we're trained to think, it shouldn't matter. If you go pure atheist, nothing matters, it's all whatever. And then most religions will give you a default answer that might be satisfying to some people. Even the funny thing, even religions I find compelling, their answers to the why does it matter question, that doesn't do anything for me. Or the answers feel inadequate. We've been on the no solution, no salvation shit for a long time now. And as always, I like it because you can take it in a meaningful direction or in a meaningless direction depending on what you need. But to zero in on what I've been thinking about lately, I don't think we're supposed to be able to know. I don't think we're supposed to be able to resolve this existence. I don't think we're supposed to be able to solve this existence. I don't think we will be saved from this existence by doing any particular set of things. Or that there is a set of things each individual is supposed to be doing. Like you can put up a list of rules on a board and then everybody follows those. Rather, I feel like we are alive to see if we are able to move in the direction we're being led using our bodies and minds as those instruments I mentioned earlier, in spite of any and all details or feedback this matrix hell world existence gives you. Can you follow your compass, or will you listen to your go in this direction glands in spite of everything? No matter how nonsensical it seems, or how specific it gets, or what you might suffer if you feel the call in a direction you know is going to fuck you up, can you still do it? Will you still do it? And if you can and will, to what end are you doing this? I have no idea. Maybe there is no end. I don't think we'll ever be able to know. But if you're trying to get at some big picture, the fact we have this internal feedback system that operates by its own rules, that feels important. Especially because of how strange and not good or not socialized the roads it'll take you down can be. Or alternatively, how high the roads it can take you can be. But it's most noticeable as evidence to me when it takes you in directions that prompt all of existence to attack you for even considering going in that direction. Yet, it's important as evidence because you know this is where you're supposed to be going or what you're supposed to be doing. It's righteousness, capital R righteousness. However, as we've gotten older, righteousness has refined. At what point will you be able to call reality on its bluff and know it's a bluff? We're getting better at this every day, and it's taken us on this psychedelic incel cruise. It may all feel like peat underneath you from the Okefenokee, peat moss, this semi-solid moss in Georgia swamps that can build their own structures, kind of. Neat shit. The ground underneath you might feel like peat in that it's not totally solid, but I'm liking the fact, I'm liking it sensationally, that it feels like there is ground underneath me now, sort of, where before there was none. Even if only in a small way, it feels like you are getting somewhere. Somewhere strange, but somewhere. And it's strange also the way you notice this most when you recognize your drift away from women. Not as a choice, and not a consequence of anything you did. It just happened this way, and it makes sense that it happened this way. And it feels sad, but it's the sort of sad that is sad, but it doesn't feel sad. You can recognize the sadness and you can taste it and you can appreciate it, but you don't feel it as such. Maybe that comes with the territory of surrendering yourself to whatever this is, whatever road you've been set down or drift you've been set on. But it also feels like we are becoming what we're supposed to be. Agents of Ishtar or Venus or Hecate. Whatever it is we're supposed to be. And it's weird. I just took a clarity piss a second ago, or a minute ago, and now I'm feeling intense jamais vu. I feel like I'm in my room, I'm in front of my computer for the first time. I know I'm not. And also, you feel like you're floating, but if anything goes wrong, you could jinx it and you'll fall back down. Again, I have no idea what to make of any of this or what to do with any of this. All we're doing here is observing. Or maybe what we're here to do is act as a living exhibit of what lack of getting your dick sucked does to a person. I have no idea, but we've been in new territory, in new waters, for a couple months now, and we are just beginning to realize how strange the waters we're in are. But I think we will cut it here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.